Welcome back, everybody. Wait a minute. No, hold on. I
Hold
gotta
on, hold
remember,
on.
this is like midway through the episode.
True.
All right. Welcome to. God, I fucking about did it again.
And take 3, action.
All right. Dana White Contender Series Week 4 is in the books. We are here once again to talk about it. We're going to go fight by fight per usual, give our thoughts on each and every fight, every winner, every contract earner. Then at the end, Dominic, we will give our personal power rankings and award the BAJ contracts accordingly. Fight number 1. Bolaji Oki gets the first round TKO over Dylan Salvador. 2 minutes 46 seconds into the very first round. As these two were walking out and they're kind of giving the background of both of them, admittedly, I don't think either of us know very much about them going in. I was sort of expecting, if this fight were to stay standing, that Salvador would roll here, and that is not what happened. Oki came out super aggressive, was hitting with big power, and he landed hard, flush, and had a dramatic impact on Salvador, was able to put him away. Were you pretty impressed with what you saw here from Oki? Was there anything, I guess, any positive or negative takeaways to go from this, or is it all positive for you?
I think it's all positive, and it's because of the way in which that he does it. He was a 2-1 dog going into this fight as well, and like you said, Salvador, known for his Muay Thai, good on the feet, and Oki goes in and really starches him in 2 minutes 46 seconds. He never even let Salvador get going. It was all Oki from the opening bell. Clear power, clear precision, still technical prowess. He didn't overexert himself, because there were moments even early on where he had him hurt, but he didn't bull rush in. He took his time and still got a finish in 2 minutes and 46 seconds. 27 years old, 8-1, 6 finishes from Belgium, by the way, which is different. You don't see many fighters from Belgium on the UFC roster. It's a guy entering his prime. I'm not surprised at all that he gets a contract, and he got the night started on the right foot, I would say.
You are probably right. That's actually a good point because I was going to say, he looked great, and it's hard to have any sort of nitpicks. But if I were going to make one, I felt like he was putting everything into every shot. And I didn't know how sustainable that was over 15 minutes. But the point you brought up that's kind of making me want to reassess that take is that you're right. He didn't really just bull rush for the finish when he had him hurt. He did stay composed, stayed patient, which are traits that could be hard for a guy in any of these 10 fighters positions to do. Not only are you kind of green, you're young, never been in the biggest league, the biggest promotion out there. You've not fought at this level before, but also you're trying to earn a contract on a TV show that really emphasizes going for it. I mean, Dana will say, hey, it doesn't have to be a finish.
Yeah.
But we know how much. I mean, the two guys that didn't earn contracts on here were the two fights that went to a decision. So I'm not saying that that's always the case. You have Jack Della Maddalena and Anglosa is one of the best fights in Contender Series history.
Yeah.
Jack gets the contract. Losa's now been in the UFC for 3 fights. He's fighting this weekend, actually.
Yep.
So it can be done, but I do think those are great traits for him moving forward. I do just wonder how sustainable it is for him to be this deadly over the course of 15 minutes. Because it felt like he really went for it here. It seemed like he got the better of a guy who was overall a higher credentialed striker than him, which is very good. I mean, that's very positive takeaway. You said he was a 2-1 underdog. Yeah, he's one of the biggest winners of the night. Probably going to be high up there on both of our power rankings, I would say.
And to get in and out this clean, it's only August 30th, the day we're recording this. We're going to see Oki make his Octagon debut before the end of the year. So we're going to see him really get put to the test shortly.
Did he ask for that? I heard there was a couple guys. I'll be honest, I watched most of this card on mute, so I didn't get to hear a lot of the what they were saying afterwards. I did watch Dana White's post-fight press conference though, and there was something about a couple of these guys were asking to be put on cards, certain cards like Sao Paulo, I think was mentioned.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think that might have even been Prates in specific in the main event that we're going to get to. And also, I don't know if you saw, but last week's only winner to not get a contract, Josephine Knudsen, is now fighting at Noche UFC here in a couple of weeks.
I did not see
didn't
that.
get a contract,
Nice.
but what did we say? It's someone that could get short notice or get into the UFC in the future and she's literally going to debut before any of the other contract winners.
That's
So
actually pretty nuts.
it's
And
it's against Yasmin Lucindo, actually. So
that's a tough fight.
yeah.
I like that she's getting the opportunity, though. I spoke probably higher of her than a lot of people would have last
Mm-hmm.
week. But yeah, I would love to see Oki get in there before the end of the year. It does seem kind of strange, Dominic. Like, you would think a lot of these guys would really want that quick turnaround because you kind of
Mm-hmm.
use this breakout moment. You know, you're kind of in a higher spot, a higher platform than you
Yeah.
would be if you were like the first fight of a
Yeah.
fight night card.
It kind of gets you some momentum, you know.
But some guys take their sweet time to get in there and make those debuts. Like, I've been seeing guys even lately who were debuting in the
Yeah.
UFC after earning a contract last season.
Yeah, that's true.
So hopefully we see that from him, especially with the first round finish. Moving on from there, the heavyweights, the big boys.
Mm-hmm.
I got to give you a little bit of shit on this one because I don't know if people really come to us in any platform, YouTube, audio platforms, social media.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if they come to us on any of them, because of our credibility. I don't know if the
Sure.
below average Joes really scream credible voices of the community. But your tweet where you said heavyweight, you have a Habib about Thomas Petersen might be your low point as the manager of the social media.
There's been a lot of low points.
This is a new low point after misspelling like 10 names in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Multiple jinxes of bets.
I'm definitely, yeah. Well, that's, oh God, don't even. I tried to wipe that from the memory. No, I'm giving you shit. It was a bad tweet because let's calm down. But I
Hey,
will
man,
admit, like,
I gotta have my fun.
I really liked what I saw here from Thomas Petersen, man. This dude was kind of fun, and afterwards, he maybe this is kind of my fit going on here. I think he said he worked in not construction. He does some sort of real man labor job.
He's a big boy from up there in Minnesota. So
Don't let me convince you otherwise. I am a pussy little office worker, but my fit is an inspiration for Thomas Petersen, who
yes.
dominated Chandler Cole. Chandler Cole actually on the Ultimate Fighter last year,
Yeah.
which I did not remember, and he gets the second round submission a minute 8 seconds in. You know, you never know with these heavyweights, and a lot of times we see them get contracts that on this show that's I tend to be critical of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the one that always sticks out to me is Lucas Bresky, who got knocked out last week.
Yeah.
Was not impressed by him at all in the Contender Series. He's now 0-3 in the UFC. But Dana has admitted that there is sort of a spectrum almost of the bar for one division is not equal to the bar for another division. And heavyweights and some of the women's divisions, they're going to have a lower bar because they need more people. Maybe men's flyweight as well. So here, though, you do get a kind of a great performance out of a guy in Thomas Petersen, and it makes it kind of makes me want to put him higher, like when I'm doing power rankings, because I'm like, you know what, to see a heavyweight come on the show and do this against a guy who technically was looked at as UFC caliber prior, that says something to me. So what did you kind of think of the performance? I mean, you called him the heavyweight Habib. I mean, that's got to mean something, right?
I had to have my fun with the way that he was grappling and wrestling and trapping the legs up on the fence. It was funny stuff. And then he gets a key lock. You don't see a lot of heavyweights locking key locks.
True.
That was his first submission win of his entire career, by the way. So for those of you that bet that, congratulations. I believe it was like plus 1,000, maybe even more than that. You know, Noah, all 8 of his wins are by finish. And the only loss that he has was an LFA to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who we just saw get a big win against Lucas Bresky. So it's kind of all just coming full circle.
Circle of life, baby. Lion King.
So Petersen, Cortez Acosta 2, main eventing UFC 312. Book that in for the future. But I like this guy. When you can prove to have knockout power, but pull out those grappling and wrestling skills that he grew up with from his past, I think that's something to look forward to bring into a not so back heavy, at least, heavyweight division.
The finish here with the key lock kind of reminded me of our good friend Alexei Olenek. Feels like something
Yeah.
he'd pull out of his bag of tricks. So
Yeah, good point.
definitely a guy who can't. I mean, you said it's his first win by submission, so maybe that's not really what we're going to see from him in the UFC. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's a route he's going to go, especially if he's planning to wrestle like this in the
Mhm.
heavyweight division.
If it's there.
If so, if he's really going to be a submission threat, he'd be a bad matchup for a lot of those lower
Yeah.
level heavyweights. So time will tell. I
Mhm.
liked what I saw though, and I think that's going to show in the power rankings. I think I might have him higher than some people will expect, Dominic. So
Okay.
now we're going to get into the portion that could get interesting because we're hitting two fights here where the winner did not get a contract. Both fights went to a decision. We'll start Timothy Cuamba, unanimous decision win over Mateo Vogel. What'd you think of this one, Dominic? Did Timothy Cuamba get snubbed?
I don't think he got snubbed. I agreed with everything Dana said about this fight, but I actually really enjoyed this fight. I thought it was a relatively high level fight for Dana
Mhm.
White Contender Series, and I really enjoyed what I saw from Timothy Kwamba. I would say no contract last night. He deserves to fight a second time this season and get his chance to come back into the UFC. I really liked his clean striking. He seemed very calm and composed. He just seemed well rounded. Yes, in that third round, he found himself on the mat, and I think that's where that really hurt him. I feel like if he would have had a better third round and a bit of a cleaner victory overall, he may have gotten in, probably not, but at least a higher chance. But I think that's what held me back from saying he got snubbed as well. But I think there's some potential here with Kwamba. He trains in Vegas with a very good camp, Dewey Cooper and all those guys with Cody Garbrandt. I like this guy. He's young, 7-1. I just feel like he was already pretty polished. In the future, he could become even better. I think we see him in the UFC.
Okay, I like that take. I like the idea that it was a good fight. I thought it was.
Hmm.
I kind of felt similar vibes to you, where it was probably higher level than what you see. Even guys who win contracts fighting that,
Yeah,
in my opinion. Maybe the performance doesn't scream contract
yeah.
overall, but I also wonder if that might be like just Mateo Vogel is potentially a UFC caliber guy
Well,
as
yeah,
well.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, would you bet on right now? Would you put a unit on Mateo Vogel to be one of those guys who gets a second shot on Contender Series in the future?
Yeah. I'd put a unit on both of these boys to get back in a second time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think the Kwamba one. I'm forcing you to
You're
put
right
like
though. Vogel is yes. That's two sides to every story.
yeah, that and I mean that's hard to assess in on the show because in theory all these guys are they're the matchmakers have looked upon them and thought they have potential to be in the UFC. That's in theory what you're getting.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's always the case. Maybe sometimes they bring in guys who are potentially easier matchups for guys who they think have the real potential. The Bo
Mhm.
Nichols or the Sean O'Malley's, whatever. I don't even remember who they fought, so I'm not calling them out. But I think in this case, you get two guys pretty evenly like suited for the UFC.
Mhm.
Time will tell if to me it's both of them or none of them, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
Like
agree.
I have a hard time seeing if Kwamba proves to not be UFC caliber, that tells me I mean, MMA math doesn't work this way, but I'm just putting it out there that
Mhm.
Kwamba, if we don't ever see him in the UFC, I feel like that means that this fight probably looked better because
Yeah,
both maybe just weren't actually that high caliber, but
sure.
I think you will end up seeing both of them there. How about that?
I'm with you there. Yes.
Now, what about the co-main event? Marco Tulio,
Mhm.
unanimous decision win over
Easy here.
Yousri. you, you were listening to the broadcast. You might want to give this one a
I
shot.
think if I'm not mistaken, he is French. So it's going to be like or no, he's from
Oh,
the
it's
Netherlands,
probably
but it's
okay.
Bargowi
I was
is
about to
how they say
say
the last name.
it might be like Monsois Bonouille.
I think that's how it is.
So
Yeah.
it's
I
like
definitely know the last name though.
Yousri Belgaroui. What'd you think? What'd you think? Was Marco snubbed here?
Um no, I'm agreeing here. I don't think this was a contract earner either. This fight didn't feel as good either as Kwamba versus Vogel, but for what it's worth, Tulio was giving up shit tons of size in the reach department and the height department, and still made it scrappy and made it a pretty convincing victory. Kind of wore out Belgaroui in round 2 and 3, kind of just ran away with it, especially in round 3. And I believe also in his corner, Belgaroui's corner. Now I'm not going to be able to say it good.
You're gonna say
Glover
Barnaby
Teixeira trains with Alex Pereira, like a good solid camp. And Marco Tulio comes in and still gets a victory. He's 10-1. He has 7 finishes. It wasn't enough to say a snub or he should have gotten a contract, but he overcame significant odds to win that fight.
Were you surprised based off of some of the last couple seasons and even this season so far? When it was all said and done, would you have thought both of those guys wouldn't have gotten contracts from Dana White?
No, I don't think I was surprised at 3 out of 5 last night.
Okay. I was a little surprised. Now, I don't remember the divisions of either one of those fights off the top of my head.
The co-main was middleweight and Cuamba was featherweight.
Okay. So, I mean, the middleweight one, if you had flipped what divisions those two fights were in, I feel like Cuamba gets the contract.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because middleweight, I feel like, is a division more of need than featherweight is.
Mm-hmm.
But I really thought Cuamba might get it. Now, I think you're going to see in the power rankings that we do, I probably wouldn't have either.
Mm-hmm.
But you're kind of right, though. Potential is somewhat there. And that's why it's just, again, it's a tough line to tote where it's like potential versus performance. And on the episode, how do you award those contracts? Main event. Wow. Carlos Prates, second round, 1 minute, 14-second TKO over Mitch Ramirez. You're taken aback, Dominic. Holy shit! I mean, does this division have a Habib here? I mean, what are we talking about?
Did you hear what Dana said? He said this man reminded him of a young Anderson Silva.
Okay, I forgot to bring this up. I wanted to bring this up sooner. I wanted to say, because I was giving you shit about the Habib thing for Thomas Petersen. I was going to say, I wanted to give you more shit. That's not even the most outrageous comparison we saw of the night. Now, with that being said, was the Prates one more earned than the Petersen one? I'll let you guys decide. But Anderson Silva, we haven't heard someone compared to him since Felipe Nover, and most of you listening probably don't know who Felipe Nover is.
And your co-host also has no idea.
Oh, really? You don't remember that from this would have been Felipe Nover won the Ultimate Fighter back. This was around when Anderson probably
before or after Uriah.
Before or after Uriah Hall? Oh, before. This was I think this was pre-UFC 100.
Ah, okay.
Maybe. I could be. See, now you're exposing me a little bit because I'm trying to over-explain. But I don't know. I forget if I think it was Dana who said Felipe Nover was like a Anderson Silva. Like he was giving him a lot of huge praise on the show.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then he kind of fizzled out in the UFC. So that's sort of been he's kind of been memed for that nowadays. So not the first time that Dana's made that comparison. This one might be more justified though. What'd you think, Carlos Prates?
I think this is the best performance of the season so far for me. Yeah. This was a very fantastic striking clinic. I would say clinic was what it was. And he's 30, right in his prime, 17-6, tons of experience. I look at the list here. He's fought in LFA. He's fought in one championship. I mean, he's literally fought everywhere. He's Brazilian, long, lanky guy for this weight class. I think we got something here with Carlos Prates. I think we're going to see him fight also before the end of the year, if I had to imagine. Maybe Sao Paulo, Brazil. I know Dana even mentioned that card specifically when talking about him. This was the standout performance for me so far through the first 4 weeks of the season.
Be Carlos Prates. That's
Be Carlos Prates. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair because if you're getting that kind of comparison from Dana White at this point, when he's been doing it for as long as he's done, it's one thing when you're post Tough Boom and Dana's still on that horse, really trying to get MMA into a more positive light in the casual fan and the common man's mind.
Mm-hmm.
So he's really on his shit, like saying,
Yeah.
hey, this guy could be the next Anderson Silva. But it's another thing when you're here in 2023 and he's throwing out those kind of
Exactly.
compliments. You don't hear that much. I mean, you'll hear the Beach Pipers, and those are great too.
Mhm.
But to get that kind of lofty expectations, it's going to be a lot to live up to. But you're right. I mean, it probably is the standout of the season so far. Can't say anything negative about it. Absolute clinic.
And you got to see it go into that second round, right? You got to see extended amounts of time where he stayed great throughout. So it holds a little bit more than like a 2 minute and 46-second finish, and we talk about that from week to week. I think we'll probably have this guy in similar spots when we talk power rankings, but
Yeah.
it's worth note.
I was a little surprised Mitch Ramirez was able to hang in there for that long, man. That
Yeah,
was a
you're
tough.
right.
Really, he tried, man. I mean, that's the kind of performance that usually a guy's out of there in the first
Oh, yeah.
round. So
Yeah.
props to him for that. All right, so power rankings time, I believe.
hmm
Do we even need to say number one is Carlos Prates?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, Carlos Prates number 1 for sure.
All right, who's your number two?
I had Oki at number 2 still.
See, I had Thomas Petersen.
Yeah, that's what I figured when you were talking about it.
And I understand why people are going to put Oki at number 2. I do. I get it. I think overall, if you're going off of like pound for pound, he probably is the number 2 here. I am going to give the curve of heavyweight here an edge because I don't typically, especially on this show, I don't know if I've ever been like actually impressed or blown away by a
Yeah.
heavyweight performance, which I hate to say that, but
When
if
you
I
look
went and look,
into it, though.
I'll need to go back and look at like who at heavyweights earned contracts on this show. Not very many. I mean,
Yeah.
you're after this, you're talking like Greg Hardy for most
Yeah.
impressive heavyweight performance. So I put him at number 2. I will put Bolaji Oki at number 3. I think we're in agreement though. Those are the 3 contracts we would give.
Yeah, those would have been the 3 contracts for sure.
And then this should be easy. So 4 Timothy Cuamba and 5 Marco Tulio.
I had Timothy Cuamba 3
Oh,
and Thomas 4, actually.
okay. I guess I should have let you finish. So
I
please talk about
think
what a bum take this is. Let's hear it.
no. My heavyweight Habib, did not get put above Timothy because, man, I think I looked at it this way. Thomas Petersen beat Chandler Cole. I felt that was just a low level win, a low level opponent.
Yep.
And that's not his fault. But what we just talked about with Cuamba, him and Vogel felt like just a higher level fight for Contender Series. What we also say, Vogel, we could see getting a second shot or getting a short notice fight in the UFC. I'm not saying the same for Chandler Cole. Yes, I know he was on the Ultimate Fighter, but let's be honest, the participants on that season were not too great, to say the least. And I just don't know if Petersen can use, like, it's cool that he has the grappling and submissions, and I want to see him use it, but will it come as easy against higher level opponents? That's where I valued Cuamba at 3 and Petersen at 4.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. The heavyweight Habib is bringing up the rear of this list. Actually, my little like curveball I was going to throw in is I was actually going to put Vogel at number 5.
There you go. Okay, that works out.
So,
well, what was putting Tulio at 4 then for you?
No. I put Cuamba at 4, and then Vogel at 5.
Oh,
Went with the loser, actually.
Okay,
now I didn't actually do because in the spirit of we're ranking the winners here.
Yeah.
But I wanted it to be clear that like if I was forced to choose, I would choose Vogel over Tulio.
Okay. Gotcha.
And that's really not a slight on Tulio. It's just simply I thought that fight with Vogel and Cuamba, much like what you said, was just higher level, more potential in both those guys, in my opinion, right now. That's the way I ended up kind of racking it up in my brain. But obviously, for what we're doing, Tulio would go number 5. But it has happened before. I forget what fight that was, but Dana did award the loser of a fight a contract
from last year. Yeah,
was it Was it Carlos Candelario or someone like that? It was one of those guys. Like it was like a flyweight fight, I think.
It was a little smaller weight class.
Yeah, but so that's it for Dana White Contender Series Week 4. We will be back here to do Week 5 once again. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, all that. Comment what performances stood out to you. What contracts
Yeah.
are you giving out?
Power rankings.
Did you think Tulio or Cuamba got snubbed? Maybe even Vogel as well? Hammer that comment section. Let us know.